Imagine walking into the office one day and realizing something strange has started happening around you. Not something obvious. No one has fired you. No one has warned you. Your title is still the same. Your desk is still the same. But something feels different. A meeting happens without you. A project you've handled for years is suddenly assigned to someone else. A younger employee is now sitting in conversations that used to be yours. And when you ask about it, the explanation sounds harmless. We just want to give others some exposure. So you ignore it. You assume it's temporary. But then more changes begin appearing. Responsibilities shift. Your authority becomes smaller, and slowly, without anyone saying it directly, the role you've built over years starts quietly shrinking, until one day the company announces a restructuring, and suddenly your position no longer fits the new structure. This situation happens more often than most employees realize, because companies rarely eliminate roles suddenly. They use a quieter strategy. A strategy known in corporate language as delayering. And if you don't recognize the signs early, you may only realize what happened when it's already too late. In this video, we're going to break down the hidden signals that your role might already be disappearing inside your company. Because once you see these patterns, you'll start noticing something most employees completely miss. What delayering really means. On the surface, the term delayering sounds harmless. Companies describe it as removing unnecessary layers of management to make the organization more efficient. But inside many workplaces, the reality looks very different. Delayering often means reducing experienced roles, not because those employees lack value, but because their positions are expensive. Over time, companies begin asking a simple question: can this work be done with fewer people? Or sometimes, can this role be divided among several lower-paid employees? Instead of firing someone immediately, companies sometimes begin shrinking the role itself. Responsibilities are redistributed, decision-making authority fades, visibility inside the organization disappears, until the role becomes small enough that removing it feels logical. And the employee who once felt secure begins wondering when everything changed. One of the earliest signs of delayering is exclusion from conversations. For years, you were included in meetings that mattered, planning discussions, strategic conversations, decisions about projects and future direction. Your presence was expected. Then suddenly, something strange happens. You hear someone mention a meeting you didn't attend. At first, you assume it was a mistake. Maybe someone forgot to send the invitation. But then it happens again and again, until you realize something uncomfortable. Decisions that once involved you are now being made without you. This change may seem small, but inside corporate structures, meetings represent something important. They represent influence. When employees stop appearing in key discussions, it often signals that leadership no longer sees their role as central to future decisions. And once your influence fades, your role begins losing its strategic importance. Another subtle signal appears when your responsibilities begin shifting. At first, the explanation sounds reasonable. Your manager assigns a task to another employee. We want them to learn. That seems fair. Training others is normal. But then something unusual happens. Another responsibility moves, and another, until you realize the tasks that once defined your role are now scattered across different people. Suddenly, your workload feels lighter. At first, that might seem like good news, less pressure, less stress. But inside corporate restructuring, a lighter workload can mean something entirely different. It can mean the organization is quietly testing whether your role is still necessary. One of the most unsettling signs of delayering is the appearance of a new employee who seems to be studying your role. This person might be younger, less experienced. Sometimes they're introduced under a completely different title, but suddenly they're attending meetings with you, observing your processes, asking detailed questions about your work, your systems, your contacts, your reports. Everyone describes this situation as training, but over time the pattern becomes clearer. They are learning everything you do, and once another person understands every part of your role, the company gains flexibility. Because if someone else can perform your responsibilities, leadership begins asking a simple question: do we still need two people doing this job?
Another warning sign appears in how decisions are handled. In the past, you had authority. You approved projects. You made decisions quickly. Your judgment was trusted. But slowly, things begin changing. Approvals that once came from you now require additional review. Your manager wants to double-check decisions. Projects you once led are reassigned. Your authority hasn't disappeared publicly, but quietly it's shrinking. And when authority fades, the role attached to it begins losing power. Over time, that role becomes easier for the company to eliminate. For many experienced employees, this is one of the most frustrating changes. You spent years building knowledge, understanding clients, learning systems, solving problems that others couldn't handle. But suddenly something shifts inside the organization. Leadership begins talking about fresh ideas, new perspectives, younger energy. These phrases sound positive, but often they signal a deeper shift in priorities. Companies looking to reduce layers often focus on speed and lower costs, and unfortunately, experienced roles sometimes become targets during these transitions. Another sign of structural change is vague communication. When employees ask about restructuring, leadership responses often become unclear. You might hear phrases like, "We're evaluating the organization," "We're optimizing efficiency," "We're aligning teams for the future." These statements sound professional, but they rarely provide real answers. And that ambiguity often exists for a reason. The company may already be planning structural changes, but isn't ready to announce them. Or leadership wants to avoid creating panic before the restructuring is finalized. For employees inside the organization, this uncertainty can feel extremely unsettling, because something is clearly changing, but no one is willing to explain what. Another warning sign appears in the type of work assigned to you. Strategic projects begin disappearing. Instead, tasks become smaller, more routine, more administrative. Work that once required your expertise is replaced by simpler responsibilities. At first, this might feel confusing, especially if you've spent years building experience in your role. But from the organization's perspective, shifting your work toward operational tasks can make the role easier to remove later. Why companies use delayering instead of layoffs? Many employees assume companies would simply fire someone if they wanted them gone, but direct layoffs create problems, severance costs, legal risks, damage to company reputation. So instead, some organizations take a quieter approach. They restructure the role itself. Responsibilities move elsewhere. Authority fades. Visibility disappears until eventually the position becomes small enough that eliminating it seems logical. Sometimes employees even choose to leave on their own because they feel their role no longer matters. From the company's perspective, this outcome is easier. The position disappears without a direct confrontation. For the employee affected by delayering, the experience can feel deeply confusing because nothing dramatic has happened. There was no warning, no confrontation, just a gradual feeling that your presence matters less than it once did. This uncertainty often causes people to doubt themselves. They wonder, am I imagining this? Maybe I'm overthinking. But ignoring these signals can leave employees unprepared for the final outcome. Recognizing the pattern early allows you to think strategically about your future. Modern workplaces rarely reveal their intentions openly. Change happens quietly. One removed responsibility, one missed meeting, one new employee learning your role. Each event may seem small on its own, but together they form a pattern. And the employees who recognize that pattern early gain something powerful: time. Time to prepare, time to adapt, time to decide their next move before the company decides for them. Because in today's workplace, protecting your career isn't just about working hard. It's about understanding the hidden dynamics that shape the organization around you. If you want to understand the hidden psychology of workplaces, office politics, and the silent career traps most employees never see coming, subscribe to the channel. Because the biggest threats to your career rarely appear suddenly. They happen quietly, one small change at a time.